Today, I want to talk to you about military and food insecurity. This is my first podcast. I felt that it was very important to talk to you about this, particularly as we move into the new year. It's brand new. It's called Ramblings with Kim, and I hope to be able to engage you and bring you back in to listen to more of my. But today, we're going straight back into military and food insecurity. I was schooled when I talked about this on a website, and someone said that many people deal with food insecurity. And yes, I hope to get to that one day. There's a specific reason I want to talk about military food insecurity, and that has to do with the fact that about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, I saw an article where it was talking about military and food insecurity. This caught my eye because 25 years ago, I did my very first study on military and food insecurity. 25 years ago. Now, at the time, the Military Times did a quasi-study because there were rumblings about the discrepancy in pay with junior enlisted and even some of the lower senior enlisted ranks, where they were having difficulty feeding their families and they were qualifying for food stamps. And so the Military Times was reporting on that. They went to the Pentagon. The Pentagon brought forward two public affairs officers and really blew it. They stuck their foot in their mouth and responded in such a horrific manner that I just went, yes, there's no way that I can avoid this situation now. There was a colonel or a lieutenant colonel, and one I know was a major. And they were tossing around the fact that they wanted to give service members an additional allowance if they qualified for food stamps. And of course, the Pentagon was against this. Now, the two officers that came out said emphatically that it was the service members' fault and it was their problem and their responsibility if they were having too many children that they could not feed them. And if we gave them an additional allowance, where was it going to stop? Where were we going to continue provide an additional allowance? How long was this process going to continue to go on? Now, to me, that didn't make any sense. They were asking for what they were going to receive through food stamps. They were asking for the military to take care of their own. And you will always hear that the military takes care of their own. The military doesn't always take care of their own. And that is very, very unfortunate. But it's the cold, hard truth. I learned it 25 plus years ago, and new wives and service members are learning it today. So 25 years ago, I get these articles. I have found this amazing school to finish my undergraduate work through. They gave me creative license and the ability to use whatever tools that I had around me to finish my undergraduate degree. It was not a set, you take this class and this class and this class. It was a block program, which is kind of difficult to explain, but if you're interested, go to Evergreen State College. They're in Olympia, Washington. My husband at the time was stationed at Fort Lewis. Now, of course, it's Joint Base Lewis McChord, and you can find out all about them. Fantastic, fantastic school. So anyways, I go to my professor and say, I would like to do a study on military food insecurity and see if it's actually money that would incentivize people to have more children, or if there might be something else that is not causing people to have children, but is driving their wants or their beliefs into having a larger family. And he looked at me and he said, that is too big of a project. We were thinking small. And anyone that knows me knows I'm not a small win person. Never have been. Very much large win. Hit the ball out of the park and no looking back. I am going to get this done. It doesn't matter what I have to do. And so my professor finally said, okay, go ahead, do this. So I put together my surveys. I hijacked my husband's company. It wasn't literally his company. It was just the company that he was a part of. He was good friends with the company commander. So I was given permission to set out these studies or these surveys along with envelopes, pencils, and on the chalkboard, I said, please fill out and seal in the envelope when you're done if you're interested. In less than 3 days, everyone in the company had filled out a survey, sealed it, and left them there. Picked them up, brought them home, opened them up, made sure that each one's individual handwriting was different so that I could ensure that they were all unique users. And then I took them to my professor, whose jaw promptly dropped to the ground because I had over 100 surveys, which was very large, and I did not realize this at the time, for a first study in an undergrad program. Now, I was lucky again because I had access to a company and I probably could have had access to a battalion. However, he was impressed. I was good with that because that would just make my evaluation look better at the end. But what I was more excited for was to take these home now and run them through my program and see actually what was the result. Was it money? Was it some other outlier? What was actually the reason that was behind this? And I didn't know. I had absolutely no idea. I know my family had off and on, you know, gone through some food insecurity, and the commands knew that, and they would tell you to use outside resources such as food stamps and WIC and food banks, etc. So they knew this was a problem. So I was really eager to get all this information in there. And it's 1997. So it's not like today where things are much easier to process. I put everything in there and I was surprised. I didn't think it was going to be money because it really just didn't make any sense to me because people were already having children without having money. So why would that have a or make a difference now? So what ended up being the driver behind people having more children was religion. Religion. Now, when military members go into uh, the services, they have to say an oath to God and country. The flag is in there. They are encouraged to go to church every Sunday. The chaplains are in the field and they are providing services for military members. I know that we, as in like a battalion, were basically forced to go to a marriage retreat in order for our husbands to not have to do a 25-mile ruck march. And I've seen through my husband's eyes what that entails, and I was not going to make him go through this, so I had to listen to chaplains lecture me about marriage, and it was rather humorous to me because one, it didn't represent my faith at the time, and two, I was still more, my major was psychology. So I'm looking at it from a psychological viewpoint, thinking that doesn't really make sense from a psychological viewpoint. So, yes, the entire thing was funny, but it was religion. So, what am I able to do? I am 3,000 miles away from Washington, D.C. It's 1997. I have written up my 25-page study, and the only thing I can do is fax it to every member of the House and every member of the Senate. I follow up with phone calls. Most of them are not answered. I talked to a couple of senators, a couple of congressional aides, and that's it. But there seemed to be a little bit of movement because Senator McCain is very much taking care of the soldiers type of senator. And he was a great loss to us, unfortunately. Now, he is the moving force behind the additional $500 a month pay that service members could receive if they qualified for food stamps. Now, unfortunately, in order for them to receive this pay, the service member to receive this pay, they have to go through their chain of command. Now, if you don't know what the chain of command is, think about it from your working point of view, unless, of course, you're self-employed. But then again, you think of it from the customer. Your chain of command is the person above you, and then it could be one more person above them, and it could be another person above them. If you're military and you hear chain of command and you have to take something to that chain of command, right now, chills are running up your spine because you know whether it's good or it's bad, you do not want to go to your chain of command for anything. Now, I'm a different story. And my husband was a different story. And if you stay with me in these podcasts, I will not only talk about the military, I will talk about so many other things. But you will hear, I'm sure, some of these stories along the way. So now we have service members who have to go through their chain of command, a chain of command that doesn't necessarily believe that they should be allowed this additional allowance. Because remember that major and his lieutenant colonel boss who didn't believe that they should get that money? Well, all they have to do is stamp their paper denied. Yeah, they just deny them. It's no big deal. Doesn't affect them. It doesn't matter about the service member. It doesn't matter that it directly affects military readiness. Now, I saw that article, the one that I alluded to at the beginning, that had popped up 5 or 6 weeks ago. And it was specifically Tammy Duckworth had been quoted as stating that she was going to take this project on. So I contacted her office and said, this is who I am. I jumped on this bandwagon 25 years ago. If you would like any help, any historical context, please call me. I didn't hear from her. I didn't expect to. I don't live in her state, but I didn't live in Senator McCain's state either. So anyways, I moved on. At the same time, I immediately called Senator Hickenlooper, who is my senator. He did not return my call. I called Senator Bennett. His aide got back to me, a very, very junior aide, returned my phone call about a week later and stated she would get with the senator and would call me back in about a week. And I have yet to hear from her. Now, Senator Bennett is up for re-election. So I kind of thought maybe I might have a chance with him, but apparently I didn't. Now, the congressman in my city is useless. He will be proud that he signed the NDAA, but he will also be equally as proud if he can shut down the government, which will shut down all 5 military installations and could possibly shut down military pay, the civilians that work for them, disrupt the God knows how many military contractors that we have in this city. And Congressman Doug Lamborn hasn't done anything, and he won't. He will sit and make money off of being in Congress until the day he dies without doing anything, except for tweeting out right to life. Now, regardless of where you stand on this issue, I am not going to judge. But if you only believe in right to life until the baby is born, and you don't care about whether or not they're fed after they're born, you have a serious issue and a serious disconnect as to what it means as far as right to life. Because these military service members' families, their children, deserve food. And if Lamborn doesn't want to help provide food, shame on him. Now, I was in Mississippi with my husband because we go there for Christmas and heard on the television that CBS had done a story on military food insecurity in Texas. The community got together, came up with 1 million meals that they donated. Now, the Pentagon apparently claimed some credit for this. I am guessing that what the Pentagon did was help to facilitate the distribution of these meals on Fort Hood in Texas. Now, I will give CBS in Texas credit for doing this, and the people in Texas, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It may not mean anything to you. I may not mean anything to you, but I was a military spouse for a very long time. I know they appreciate it. Now, why can't we do this everywhere else? I put up a GoFundMe in Colorado Springs. We have 5 military installations. I was hoping to be able to bring a truckload of food, of dried goods, paper towels, toilet paper, anything we could think of to every military family that was facing this Christmas. Not one person donated. And I let landlord know specifically about my GoFundMe, and he did not donate. He hasn't done anything about this issue because he doesn't care. But in all fairness, no one else has either. And it needs to change. We really need this to change. We need to find a way to make it so that military members don't have to go through their chain of command who can deny their supplemental income if they qualify for food stamps. They need to just automatically qualify for food stamps or for the additional amount if they qualify for food stamps. That's just simply what needs to happen. And I don't understand why this is so difficult. Why are we acting like we're being elitist? This is the military, the world's best military, as we continue to hear over and over and over again. They work 24/7. Now, not all of them work 24/7. I thought they all worked 24/7 until we moved to Colorado Springs. And I discovered that there are quite a lot of them that work just regular, normal hours. And good for them. My husband's career path went 24/7. It was always, you could be called to do something at any time. I have stories about that as well as the fact that our daughter nearly died while my husband was playing imaginary war games, and I couldn't get a message to him about this. And it was imaginary war games, not Syria, not Afghanistan, not Iraq, not the 100+ countries that we have military members in. Yes, we do. Don't ever act surprised when you see or hear that there are military members in some country that you've never heard of, because they're there. You just don't know it. That's what we sacrifice, and we're willing to sacrifice it. Our families are willing to sacrifice this. We're willing to provide your blanket of freedom. But in return, we expect you to take care of the military. Watch out for them. Provide them with basics. Provide the military service members who don't have food for their families. Provide them with food for their families. That's all they're asking for. And I'm not asking for me. I'm not a military spouse any longer. As you could tell, I was doing undergraduate work 25 years ago. I'm not a military spouse any longer, but the military is near and dear to my heart and always will be. So if you want to talk to me about this, if you want to talk to me about something else, if you want to tell me how horrible I am, if you want to tell me what your experience is, if you want to talk to me about anything in the whole entire world, please email me. Ramblings, that's RAM, B as in Bravo, LINGS @outlook.com. Right now, I'm still at the beginning. I'm setting up a website, YouTube channel, and a blog so that you'll be able to find me. And I'm not just going to talk about the military. I am a huge Oregon Duck fan. Love my football, basketball, track and field, Oregon soccer. Probably talk about the switchbacks. Why do we have an empty field over here? Why don't we have a women's soccer team? That sounds like an interesting conversation that we should maybe have one day. There are so many interesting conversations that we can have along the way. Please join me in these conversations. I look forward to talking with you about so many different topics. And I thank you so very much for listening to what I have to say today about military members and food insecurity. Have a wonderful day.